In order to successfully train a dog, we have to be able to clearly define to the dog what constitutes success. In other words, what do you have to do to win? What is the objective? What do we want from you? In the beginning, we have to break these steps down, tiny little increments. Think of it like dominoes that connect one to the other to the other. We know where our starting point is. We know what our end goal is. We have it clearly defined in our mind what we want the image of the trained dog to look like, whatever our objective is for that dog. And then we know how to break down the little points, and we know how to articulate each of those points to the dog. I did a consult the other day that was just so mind-blowing to me. The dog is aggressive. The dog is nervous. The dog punched me right in the gut as I went outside to say hello to the people. Dog's in a muzzle, a couple of different collars, a harness. I mean, he's decked out head to toe. The lady has seen 3 or 4 other trainers. I asked her, "What did you do with your last trainer?" Well, we would be in his studio and he would come out with dog after dog. And what was the goal? Well, just for my dog to not do anything, to not react. And what was your dog doing? Well, my dog would react by either going into full-on fight mode or full-on flight mode, trying to melt into the wall. So how did anyone explain to the dog what his job is? Well, I don't know. That's a massive fail in training. If no one gives the dog his job description and no one helps the dog meet those requirements, how is the dog supposed to function? If you're a manager at Starbucks and you hire someone new day one and you don't tell them anything, you don't tell them you're in charge of espresso, you're in charge of taking out the trash, you're in charge of drive-through window, whatever it is, how are they supposed to know what's expected of them? I mean, it sounds obvious. Yet in dog training, people think that we're just going to keep putting a dog in a situation and it's somehow going to magically become clear to the dog. The dog will have clarity. The dog will give us what we want. If the dog doesn't, he's difficult, he's stubborn, it's not the right breed of dog, he's a rescue, he has COVID, the wind is blowing the wrong direction today. No, we have to know how to articulate things. So, this dog that punched me in the gut, and now I'm going to explain to you how we do this. We came inside, and the dog is lunging at me still and barking at me. And the first thing I do, I just take the leash from the owner. And I sit down on the same stool I'm sitting on right now. And the dog is not sure what to do with me. He's a fearfully driven dog. So I'm not in any way, shape, or form concerned for myself. I just want to help de-escalate the dog's tension. And what he wants, so in this case, how to define for the dog what's required of him and how to have success. I want to show him that the only thing required of him right now is to not bounce around because he's got a lot of nervous energy, and to not interact with me because any interaction with me is going to be combative by his own choosing. So I just ask him to sit. And he sits, and he holds it for a little bit of time, and then he gets up, and I just give a little gentle pressure upwards on the leash, and he sits again. And I'm talking with the owners. And there's 2 people here. I'm watching them look at each other while I'm doing this. And there's a little bit of, they're waiting for the kaboom. And then they're starting to kind of loosen up a little bit and grin at each other. And then there's a little bit of, whoa, this is weird. We didn't kind of think it would go like this in a positive way. And then I point out to them that I'm not going to interact with the dog. I'm just going to leave him be. Just like if you're sitting down at a food court and there's a person at the table immediately next to you. You're not eating from their tray, they're not eating from yours, they're not touching you, you're not touching them. Everybody has their space, their own allotted space. And I do that with the dog, and we can see his posture softening. We could see him just kind of shift his weight and lean on his hip a little bit. Then his head is starting to do this, and we're talking and talking. It's maybe 15, 20 minutes now. And eventually, he kind of leans in closer to me. He's not fully leaning on me, but he is making contact. And I just do this. I just touch him just like that. And then I take my finger away. And what I'm teaching him is, if we have contact, it's not really invasive. It's not a big deal. There's no big emotional outburst for me because he doesn't trust people. And then it disappears. And then it's up to you if you want more, right? I let you try something. I offer you a taste. And if you want more, you let me know. You go, good. And I go, oh, you liked it. Okay, here's more. Or you go, not for me. And I say, oh, sorry, here's something to wash it down, get rid of the taste. And so as I do this, he's a little bit unsure, but there's nothing negative. He's just not sure where it's going to go. So I leave it up to him. And he comes in a little closer still, and he's leaning in. So I do that again. Now he's pushing my hand with the top of his head and his muzzle. So I have clearly defined for the dog how to win and how to connect those dominoes to the end goal, in this case, of we can not just tolerate one another, we can be friends. Other trainers tried with this dog to win him over by offering him food. How's that going to help the dog if he doesn't trust you? The dog that doesn't trust you might take the food. If he's got a high enough food drive, he might take the food and then go back into that survival state. Food doesn't buy trust. It might help some dogs come down a little bit, but it's not absolutely going to buy trust. What's going to happen is the dog needs to investigate what it means to interact with me, and it's got to be on his timeline and his terms. Again, I always talk about self-motivation, self-discovery. The dog wants to feel safe. I'm giving him every opportunity. I'm not imposing myself on him. I'm showing him that he doesn't need to go to war with me to feel safe. And then I'm letting him discover for himself that I'm actually enjoyable. So it's the taste it and then you go, right? No one explained to the dog how to win. Another trainer would take the dog into parks, and people and dogs are walking by, and the dog is sometimes exploding and sometimes he's doing nothing. But no one explained to the dog how to win. What is success? Every dog in training, at the end of a session, we should be able to have an exit interview with the dog and say, what was your task today? What was the job? What was the goal? I have a dog, Esme, in right now for training. She's lovely. She suffers from really bad separation anxiety. So the owner lives in an apartment, cannot leave her alone without her going bananas. Brings her in for training yesterday. Drops her off with me. She's going to be here for 3 weeks. I need to start training day one to show her that you're not going to be in your kennel for long. 3 minutes, 5 minutes, and then we come out to play. And then a little longer, and we come out to play. And when you're in the kennel, there's no need to carry on and bark. And today we were working on when I open your kennel door. You don't come charging out, because that feeds in to that whole separation anxiety, that heightened state, that elevated emotional state of, oh my God, I got to get out of here. It goes far beyond just a silly dog being let out and he's got beans in him, and he just wants to run around. This is different. This is a panic state. So now today, if Esme could do an exit interview, she'd be telling you, I'm not supposed to charge out. I'm supposed to sit and wait to be released. And then when we get outside, we can play. And then I would give her a big tick mark in her book. Yeah, Esme, you got the point of today's lesson. And so now I'm connecting yesterday's dominoes to today's dominoes, eventually tomorrow's and next week's. And eventually I get to my end goal. But if you're training your dog, or if you're working with someone who's helping you train your dog, and they don't have a clearly defined goal of what the training is, and then what is the point of each lesson, each little stopgap along the way, then how is the dog supposed to have any clarity on what our objectives are? We should all be on the same page. Everyone should be reading from the same contract and initialing after each contract. Okay, acknowledging. If not, then we're just training for the sake of training. That's not productive. You'll never hire a plumber or an electrician to come to your house and just do plumbing, just do electrical. It's specific. It's the kitchen lighting. It's the rewiring of. It's the replacing of. It's specific. Training needs to be specific. And above all, the dog has to know, what is my task and what do I need to do in order to have success? When people train in a very generalized way without any big picture clarity, you're never going to have success. You're going to have little stumbling successes. It's like someone who drives home drunk from the bar and they make it in one piece and they don't hurt anyone. It doesn't mean it's a good idea. It just means they got away with something. A lot of training happens to work that way. A lot of times I say it's amazing how dogs learn despite what the people do, not because of what the people do, but despite. Because so many things were done incorrectly, and yet this dog is so impressive that it managed to still gather some pieces of the puzzle and connect dots. So when we're training our dogs, clarity. One last point. I don't do single lessons. And I don't think that it's in the interest of people to do singular lessons. I'm sure there are trainers out there that do that. Maybe some of you watching this have done single lessons with trainers. Everyone's got their own way. I don't believe that they're particularly useful because we need to have, loosely put, a beginning, a middle, and end. Meaning, you know, or the trainer can help you define what the objectives are for your dog: obedience, separation anxiety, reactivity, catch a frisbee, whatever it is. And then we have to evaluate, where are we starting from? Who is this dog? What is our step one in training? I have a bunch of dogs in for training. They're all very different. I've got one dog in who's been through a multitude of trainers. No one's been able to stop the dog's reactivity to other dogs, to cars, he's explosive. He's actually very easy to work with. He's very, very sweet. He's very clever, and he's got a big engine. And now we have clarity. It's been 3 days. Tomorrow will be, 3 days. Dog's doing great. But we're starting from one point, and our objectives are a certain thing. Then I have a 10-year-old dog in for training, who the owners have now moved from Montreal to Dubai. The first half of his life, he was abused. And then the second half of his life is with the people who now have him, who are lovely people. The dog's got no training. He's got issues, as you can imagine. So that's a different starting point. So we don't have the same starting point. We don't have the same objective. Not all owners have the same needs. Not all dogs have the same capacity. And so we have to know beginning, middle, end. To do a singular session, for sure, people would come in and pick up a thing or two, but it's not really how I envision being most useful to people. It would be like when I went to physio for a shoulder injury. The first session is kind of like when someone came in for a consultation. He's assessing my range of movement. He's taking a case history, looking at my general flexibility and fitness and everything that goes into that package that makes me what I am. And from there, he can put together a plan of action. And I don't expect that as a human in my 50s who's had ongoing shoulder issues, that it's going to be done in a session or 4 sessions or whatever. It's going to improve. It'll never be done. I'm never going to be like a gymnast that just swings their arms up and grabs the rings or what have you. I won't have that kind of range of motion in my right shoulder. But we have to first assess, where's the starting point? The end point is pretty much, let's go till the wheels fall off. Let's make it as good as we can. And then all the little dominoes along the way require knowledge, require information sharing of do this, do that. And next week, let's see where you are. We'll reassess, and then we'll keep going the way we're going, or we'll pivot. Right? Sometimes in training, we have to pivot. The big takeaway from this is you need to have clarity. You need to have your own vision of what is this? What does the finished product look like? And then you need to provide clarity to the dog along each step of the way. A great example, and a very simplistic one. People go out with their puppy and they want the puppy to go to the bathroom on command. And they follow the puppy around and they keep saying, hurry up or go potty, and they keep saying it. That's not going to give a puppy clarity. The puppy's not going to the bathroom while you're saying it. You're saying it as if it's a command, meaning you're saying it as if it's a cue that when the dog hears This sound, it's going to produce an action. What it's producing is the inaction. There's everything but going to the bathroom going on. I go out with a puppy and I wait till the puppy squats. And as soon as I see it squat, that's when I say, hurry up, hurry up, hurry, each time. And then if I'm going to reward the puppy with a piece of food, I'm giving it to the puppy while it's peeing, which sounds crazy to a lot of people. What I see a lot of the time is the puppy goes out to the bathroom, pees, comes back into the kitchen, and the owner gives the puppy a treat. And I say, oh, that's cute. You give your puppy a treat for being on that specific tile. And they say, no, he just went to the bathroom 4 seconds ago, 8 seconds ago, half a minute ago. They don't connect dots like that. There is no association being formed between the treat and the act of peeing 8, 10, 30 seconds ago. So where is the clarity and where is the message? And then what people say, he's stubborn, he's this breed, that breed, all the excuses, because they can't conceive of the fact that there was a lack of clarity in communication. In the owner's mind, I delivered the reward. The 1 + 1 = 2 is absolute in the owner's mind. Whereas to the dog, that 1 + 1 = 17.995. It doesn't add up. So when you're teaching a dog to do something, clarity is key. One last example. I've got clients with a mini dachshund who is so stressed out. Life is very stressful for little Walter. And Walter was on his place. We're doing a lesson on place. And the owner is nearby and the dog goes to step off because separation anxiety really drives this dog. So he goes to step off his place and the owner gives a perfectly timed little pop of the leash and Walter gets back on his bed. And then a moment later, he comes right to the edge again, but he teeter-totters right at the edge and he doesn't get off. And now he's processing the information. He had clarity. So he still has that raw emotional state of, I got it, mom's 3 feet away, it's killing me, I got to get there. And then he remembers that that wasn't successful. That's not part of our recipe for place. So then he stayed on the bed. And then you could see him settling more and more and more. The timing of her leash correction gave the dog absolute clarity. And then over time, he learned to accept his fate, that when we're doing place, we're doing place. Now I got a follow-up email from them 2 days later. And if they're watching this, hi Lauren, hi Calvin, I'm really glad to read about Walter's progress. He stayed on during mealtime, meaning while they had dinner, the dog stayed on place. This is after just a couple of days of training. And prior to that, in their email, they said he was a pest while they would eat. So clearly what they're doing makes sense to the dog, right? His exit interview of Walter, what is place? Well, I go there, I stay there, I wait to be released. It's early stages. They still have a leash on the dog. We're baby steps, right? We're just starting. But the clarity is there, and that's what counts for everything in training. It's not training just for the sake of training. It's training to deliver a message. It shouldn't be like that game of telephone that you tell me one story and then I tell it to someone else and there's a slight deviation and then down the line and down the line. And then by the time it gets to the intended recipient, the story is completely bastardized. Like it doesn't even have a germ of the original idea. That's not what our dog training should look like. So clarity, knowing how to connect dominoes, knowing where we're starting, where we're ending, and all the little connector points, and sometimes when we need to pivot and reassess what we're doing, and make sure, above all, that the dog understands his job or her job in any particular lesson and what they need to do in order to achieve success. That consult I did with the dog that punched me in the gut, I'm telling you, you could see it clear as day. I wish I filmed it. I didn't have my gear with me that day. When the dog just kind of exhaled and sat with me and then eventually rested his head on me and was solicitous of affection and then put a paw on me and then both paws on me. Both were up on me, on my knee, while my leg is up on the stool, so my knee is bent. And he's sitting up like he's praying with his legs, his paws rather, on my leg. And the two folks that were here with him were just looking at each other and giggling because it was so unlike him. But I gave him a recipe for success. So when you're training, it is absolutely required to explain to the dog, what is your job detail? How do you have success? It is the kindest, sweetest way to train a dog. And above all, it's the most productive thing for us, because if we're making the dog's job easy, and this is something I always try to drive home to my clients, when you make the dog's job easy in training, what you're essentially doing really is making your own job easy. Because when you make it easy for them, then they can perform, then we get to our goals sooner than later. So I'll talk to you again next time.